Now, with Trump gone, there are a lot of questions about the future of the Republican Party. We have J.C. Watts here with us. He's the chairman of the Black News Channel and former Republican congressman from Oklahoma. J.C., thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to throw to you the same question that we've been, asking everyone over the last several minutes. What are your thoughts on this inauguration day and also to that speech that we just heard from President Biden?
Christian, thanks for having me on. And regardless of who's being inaugurated or who's being sworn in, Republican or Democrat, inaugurals are special events. I've had the opportunity to sit in a front row seat in two different inaugurations, one a Republican and one a Democrat, in the special times. Senator Biden or President Biden now, I knew him as Senator Biden when I was in the House. I knew him as Senator Biden from Delaware. And I think his speech, it was a good speech. I think it was a heartfelt speech. I think he meant every word that he said. That's who Joe Biden is. However, the difficulty now is going to be executing. And that's where the tough part comes in. However, I do think when I served with Joe Biden, no one ever accused him of not being a decent guy. There were senators that served during the time I was there: Joe Biden, Don Nichols, Senator Dole, who was the majority leader at the time. Senator Dole got things done because he was trusted on both sides of the aisle. And I think President Biden brings that same trust, or I get the sense that Joe Biden that I knew, that I had dealings with, brings that same trust to the table. And I think, again, execution is going to be difficult, but he starts with a good foundation, and that foundation is trust.
Congressman Watts, can you help us understand, when he talked about seeing each other not as adversaries, but neighbors, and you talk about trust, there are millions of Americans right now who don't believe that he was legitimately elected and reject the truth of this election. How does Joe Biden resonate with them? What did they hear today in this speech?
Well, just because J.C. Watts disagrees with the news story doesn't make it fake news. Just because J.C. Watts disagrees with the facts doesn't make it, false. And I think, we put so much emphasis in our politics today on the left wing and the right wing that the poor bird is dying. And, the fact is that regardless of who won, someone would have cried foul. But as we've seen over the last 2 months, there's nothing in the facts. There's nothing in the data. There's no evidence in the court cases. And there's been, 60-something court cases filed, even at the Supreme Court. Judges who were appointed by President Trump. There's been nothing that they've seen that would alarm us to widespread fraud or that the election was stolen. And so I think one of the challenges for President Biden is going to be having to lower the temperature. There's been so much chaos and dysfunction and lying and conspiracy theories over the last 4 years that President Biden's going to have to lower the temperature. But again, I think going back to the trust theme, I think he's got enough trust. I think with Mitch McConnell and others, in the Republican and the Democrat side, that it will allow him to manage the left and the right wing and hopefully be successful in getting things done that will move our country forward.
Congressman, you're talking a lot about trust, and I want to ask you about trust with the American voter and some of the promises that President Biden made on the campaign trail, particularly to Black voters. He said after he won the election that he had always had the backs of Black voters, and they've always had his back, and that he would now always have theirs. And I think it's a sentiment that really rang hollow with a lot of Black voters because they don't feel that a lot of things have changed for them under Republican or Democratic presidents, with Republican or Democratic politicians. how important is this moment right now, the next 2 years, the next 4 years, particularly to that voting bloc, really to keep those promises that were made in keeping that trust?
Well, one of the things we're doing at the Black News Channel, we're kind of, you know, kind of monitoring the next 100 days to see those promises made, if they will be promises kept. And Kristen, you nailed it. You know, there's some conditions in every community, in poor neighborhoods, red, yellow, brown, black, and white. There are conditions that it really doesn't matter who's in the White House. Those conditions, 4 years down the road, 8 years down the road, they don't change. And I think it's because we tend to use the same old models and trying to deal with the same problems, and we use models that don't work. And so I think we have to. I hope President Biden will be open to looking at new ways of dealing with old problems, because if you're dealing with old problems the same old way, you're right. 4 years down the road, 8 years down the road, J.C. was saying in 2020 or 2021, when President Biden was sworn in, J.C. was saying, "Hey, my conditions hadn't changed. I'm making less money. I'm still, in poverty. I'm still below the poverty level." So if you're afraid to change the way we try to deal with many of our problems, you're going to get the same old results. And again, you look at it under President Obama, under President Bush, under President Clinton, hopefully under President Trump, under any of those presidents, if you were in poverty 16 years ago, you're still in poverty today.
Congressman J.C. Watts is chairman of the Black News Channel and a former Republican congressman from Oklahoma. Thank you for joining us here during the inauguration.